Good morning. Fishies are all waiting to be fed. Let's give them some kibble. I don't do enough of this on video. They look like they're awake enough. You gotta make sure they're awake first, or they don't pay attention and the food just hits the ground. Let's try it. Let's see how they're doing today. Loving my water. I'm finally dialed in. You see, he's gaining his weight back, and his eyes are nice and clear, but he's reluctant to eat the kibble still, so we're making sure he gets lots of protein. He's just not feeling 100% yet, but he's on the mend. His eyes are just staying. That's the best I've seen them in months. And he was bony, like you could see the fish bones all over his body, so he's coming back, but yeah, he's still showing bars. My other one is busy eating somewhere like she should. There she is. She's doing real good. She's like, her muscles are showing now. She's totally bounced back, so that one's good. This one here was so close to death that I'm surprised it's surviving. And again, I tried every med available to a Canadian. There's better meds out there because we're highly restricted, right? So I'm dealing with that and all this. And what saved it? A damn light bulb that cost me $20. I've spent hundreds of dollars on meds, and I could have spent $20 on a bulb. It hurts. It hurts. It's like a setback, you know. When you find out it was that easy. But well, you live and learn. I mean, the results speak for themselves. You can just go over my video history, watch how I've been slowly struggling with that problem, and now it's gone. And I've seen other people struggling the same way. Very good fish keepers struggling the same way. And they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at it too, and then they just want to give up on these fish because unfortunately, it's very frustrating. I mean, I feel it. I've been there. I've done it all, right? Like a year and a half of these same struggles for me, trying to figure out the best way forward, trying to get rid of whatever it is. And I've come to the conclusion that I was dealing with a free-floating bacteria that normally would not affect fish. So we all probably have whatever that bacteria is. Can't give you a scientific name. Don't have a microscope. Gonna buy one. Gonna start learning about that stuff and applying it to this. But it's just another thing on the list. A very big list. But yeah, you know, I believe I was dealing with a free-floating form of bacteria. Lived in the water column, and discus, not all discus, but a good number of them are born with a genetic vulnerability to that particular variety, I'll say, of bacteria. So it's not going to hurt your Oscars, it's not going to hurt your African cichlids, it's not going to hurt your eel, it's not going to hurt your neons, it's not going to hurt any of your other fish. It's not even going to hurt most of your discus. But if it is affecting your discus, it's because it has a genetic vulnerability. So if you have a batch of the same discus and they're all failing, and you've tried everything and you've thrown the kitchen sink at it, and you're too proud to run a UV, or you think the UV is too expensive to be a solution, Both of those things are wrong. You can do it for 20 bucks and you can save your fish and you can end all of that frustration and you can not be spending hundreds of dollars on meds. So I'm going to stop harping about that. And it's just filtration is, they're ornamental fish, and you need, filtration has to be like a layered cake. It can't just be an FX6 or an FX4. Those things are great, and canister filters, you know, are cool because they're kind of like mini sumps, but they're bad for discus because they're not designed to be opened up every week or two and cleaned, and these fish require you to clean. Where all the rest of the fish like mulm and stuff like that, these fish don't do well with it. You need to get that crap out. So I run a sump. The sump has 20 micron filter socks on it, so there's no big crud that ever gets into it. And the sump deals with my microbiology, my beneficial bacteria. That's so that I can scrub my filters without worrying about it. And despite doing all that stuff right, just because these fish also need to eat a high protein diet, you are going to introduce whatever flavor of bacteria it is that seems to take them out. Excuse me, fighting the hiccups again. It's like a nerve thing, it just makes it happen. But yeah, you know, I think it just comes in with the food. Eventually it's going to hit you. So it hits some people sooner than others. And if you're not on your ball, if you're not on your game, and you don't have a multi-layered filtration system that's going to take care of problem A, problem B, problem C, problem D, then you're going to spend an ass ton of money on meds and still watch your fish die despite it. And that is a horrible experience to have. I've done it. I'm seeing other people doing it because maybe they were encouraged to buy discus recently and it's not working out for them. But I mean, you can run a breeding pair on a sponge filter, but you can't run a tank of discus on a sponge filter. And you know, it's just one layer of filtration. And then what if that air hose comes off? Then your fish just die on you. It's over. It's a couple hours and they're dead. You gotta have the redundancy. You gotta have the flow. You gotta have something else to pick up the slack when one or two other filters fail. There can't be inconsistency in your water. The water has to stay the same. There's a lot of considerations, but it's not hard. It's just picking the right things. And I had to figure that out myself because the internet's just full of garbage when it comes to these fish. And fish like them. The difficult fish, the advanced level fish. The advice out there led me to failure. The attitudes out there led me to failure. And we don't live in 1859 anymore, right? We've got technology. Use it. I mean, the hobby can evolve, believe it or not. Things come out that are useful tools, and the hobby can evolve. And I'm going to continue to do things differently because all of these rules are just ass backwards as far as I'm concerned. I should only have less than half these fish in this tank according to those rules. And that give me a break. You tell me this tank looks too full? If you follow the rules, it's most certainly too full. All it's got is a sump and a few filters on it, and it's keeping up just fine. I didn't even do anything exotic like I did downstairs. Although because downstairs is working out so well. It's too dark in here right now. But my barrels right there, I'm like this close to linking them into this tank and doubling the water volume. But because I could always just shut the barrels off, and then the tank switches to this mode, like it's running now, and then drain the barrels like I do downstairs, right? So 120 gallons out. This is 120 gallons right here, roughly. So 120 gallons out of the barrels, right? And then I bring them up. I make sure the heat's right. I make sure the prime's right. And as soon as everything is definitely matched, I turn the barrels back on. And boom, 50% water change, because it'll be 120 here, 120 over there. And I was thinking of doing that right off the bat, but then I was like, no, Sean, slow down, because these are discus. I changed my system. Things can go south in a bad way. So those barrels have been seasoning now for months. They got gravels in them. I run them like tanks, and they pre-treat the water for this system at the moment. But I'm about ready to turn them into part of the system, and we'll bring this up to a 240 gallon setup when I do. I think that's going to be awesome. I think that's going to be really, really, really cool. But, you know, the name of the game is filtration. Multi-layered, heavily redundant filtration. And targeted filtration, because there's different problems to deal with. You got detritus to deal with. You've got bacteria to deal with. You know, you've got water polishing to deal with. There's all kinds of different levels and layers of filtration, and each one of them for a fish like these is a layer of protection. And if you're buying adult fish and you're spending like $200-300 a pop, every layer of protection is worth your while. Every one of them. Let's go have a peek downstairs. I consider filtration like a multi-layered missile defense system. You know, if you were to set one of those up to protect something, you'd need redundancy. You'd need targeted, systems that target specific incoming threats, and various devices for each particular type of threat. And that's how I approach my filtration. I think it's closer to the old school way of thinking. But then, and that's, I guess, where I'm stuck. I kept fish decades ago. I've been back into the hobby for a year and a half. I've been investigating what's changed, and a lot has. But it seems like things have gone backwards. We have an abundance of new tools available to us, and everyone's gone in this direction where less is more, and green water is okay. And it is for like certain species of fish, don't get me wrong. But I don't keep those species, right? So, and then there's a lot of confusion, like, because people either just starting the hobby or getting back into it like I did. And they start seeing all this stuff, and you know, Wallstad this and Swamp that, and no one sits back and says you can only do that with, you know, certain species of fish. Instead, they say, oh no, you can do this with everything. You can stick a discus in this swamp and you'll be just fine. And that's not the truth. You shouldn't stick anything in that as far as I'm concerned. Just because they can survive it doesn't mean they should. Oh, I like the old school fish keepers. I don't like mentioning names or anything like that, but an old school fish keeper, he's going to look like Mr. Fishburne, Rob. Now, that guy's a class act. He does it right. Go look at every single one of that man's tanks. Okay? He's got species that'll do just fine in this swamp, but he doesn't keep his fish in the swamp. And his fish are absolutely perfect. His tanks are beautiful, spotless, and well maintained, and properly balanced. He uses shit like matin filters and under gravel filters, and honestly, like, there's a lot of nice, really good fish. I'm not gonna sit here and call out everybody that's a really good fish keeper or say that anybody's a bad fish keeper, but that dude has it down. He knows what he's doing, and he's because he's old school. And I don't know, it's unmatched. Like his tanks are immaculate, and he's producing babies all over the place. I'm not producing babies all over the place. Certainly not yet. I've made some, but all my fish are so young that the adults don't know what to do yet. I'm working on it. I'm gonna get there. But you know. Multi-layered filtration. Think about it. If you're looking at a tank and you got one kind of filter on it, I think that leads to problems, because you're only dealing with one layer of problems, and the problems come in a cake as well, a multi-layered cake, and you need different kinds of filtration for each problem. You might not be dealing with problem A today, but it'll come along one day, like the free-floating bacteria that wants to kill all your discus. And when you'll see that bacteria, you'll see that bacteria show up and start doing its nasties to your fish about 3 weeks after you bought them. And it's not that it just showed up. It was always there. It didn't bother any of your other fish. Came in with your nets or your water change equipment, and it doesn't bother anybody else in your fish room. But the particular strain of discus you bought has that gene that gives them the vulnerability to it, and your fish just waste away. If you buy multiple different kinds of fish like I do, you'll have fish in your tank, there's discus in your tank, and you're doing just fine. It's so confusing. And then you'll have these one strain just wasting away on you because it has the bad gene. So that's kind of how it works. And if you don't keep the water clean for these guys, their heads just start rotting, their bodies start to decay. And Oscar's can take some punishment. So, but again, hole in the head is a free-floating bacterial issue, and a lot of people don't understand why it's happening to them when it happens, because they think they're sure they've got it all down right, and everything's perfect, and their test kits are rocking the world. So, I don't know. People don't want to address that problem, and the easiest solution is a $20 ball. World's gone mad. Hope you all have a great day.